Okay, student, let us now finish off our lesson with how to determine that a person has committed suicide or the person was killed, especially when a person is using a gun or a person is using a rope, right? Sometimes you'll find that people will kill somebody and then take the body and hang it so that it will look like suicide, okay? Also, I told you about the coagulation, about the blood flowing to a certain part of the body. So if a person has hanged himself, you will notice by the blood circling on the lower part of the body, which will be the feet. Okay, you can't have a person with the blood coagulating on his back or stomach, and you say that is suicide. It's not. That means the person was killed and he died. If obviously he fell and blood went to the lowest part of the body, and then the person was taken and hanged. This was a case of another superstar from the group called Soul Brothers, right? This guy had a problem with his spouse, and his spouse got an order from the court that restrained him from coming nearer to him, and yet this lady had an affair with the neighbor, and because she said, if you can go around with girls all over when you're doing your shows, I can do the same with a neighbor. And she did that. So this guy, and then this guy was very furious because he then found out that there was something going on between his wife and the neighbor, and he then became violent. That's where this lady went and got the restraining order. Okay, now this is what happened. This guy somehow found this guy somewhere and did something to him, but ultimately he was found hanging at, in his yard. That is now this lady's yard, right? That he was having an affair with. He was hanging there in the carport. You know, the carport where you park your car. It's covered. Then this guy took a rope and hanged this guy there. Now the police could determine that this person was killed from somewhere, brought here and hanged. But what happened? Because this guy said, no, the alibi is that I cannot violate my order, restraining order, because I could not come to that house because I've got a restraining order and I don't know what happened. So it happens. Now also, if a person is found shot and there's a gun next to him, right? So people think that, especially if it's one shot, because if suicide also, you can't shoot two bullets, you can only shoot one. So normally people, when they shoot themselves, they don't hold the gun far from the head. They will put it against the head, or sometimes they put it here underneath and then they shoot. Some put it here in the forehead and shoot, right? This is what happens. In order for you to be sure that this is suicide, when that bullet is fired, there will be burns around the wound. You will see that the wound will have, the skin will be bent around the wound, and you know it's suicide. But sometimes if somebody shoots you, holds you, and then put a gun and shoots you, you might think that it was suicide, and it was not, because it was shot at a close range. But normally people cannot shoot you at a close range. They will stand at a distance and shoot you, and then that's murder. But also you must look at the hands of the deceased, because the hands normally stay in that formation where it was holding a gun when shooting. It will stay in that position. If it's straight, then there's a problem. Suspicious. Okay. All right. Now, here's the important part of this lesson. Since that we've noticed that we are always disrupted, what I've done, I have given you the possible questions and a memorandum to your class reps, right? I am not going to give you the whole scope because I think I have exceeded what is required of me. Okay, I've given you everything now. You've got it. The assessment, the exam will come from that. All I'll say to you is read everything, but I will stress on only three lessons that you must read if you want to pass law of evidence. That will be lesson 4, right? And lesson 7 and 8. There will definitely be a question on those 3 questions, but that's not the only question because there's going to be 6 questions for your exam. So you go and look for the other 3, right? Stress on the lesson on impeaching the credibility of a witness, right? How do you go about doing that? And also a lesson on refreshing the memory of your witness. How to go about that? It's there. And also the evaluation of evidence by a presiding officer. Those steps, things like corroboration, and the rest of them. You look at that, and also something like failure to cross-examine, or where the accused refuses to go and testify on his behalf, where the accused and co-accused are testifying against each other. You must look at those because that's where your questions will come from, your assessment will come for both the tests and the examination. So I think we have covered a lot on law of evidence, and I've given you everything. It's now for you to go and read. Try and read everything, but stress on the 3 that I've given you, because definitely if you read those, there's a possibility that you may pass. And also remind me when you're asking for scope in class, do remind me because I might forget. I've got another class that I've also have to deal with. I might think that I've given it to you, or but remind me to say which part did I say. You must remind me the part that I said I will stress on for exams and assessment. So far so good. Thank you. Please study. Don't get involved in okay, let us deal also with the last part, the last lesson number 10, which deals with the ethical considerations. That means what can you do and what can you not do. I was when I did my my work as a defense lawyer, I would advise people as to how to plead sometimes. But be careful. Do not encourage your client to lie. For instance, I had some voice note from between Chavo Bester and Makotomane, and I was just telling my friend that if I could advise this client, I would say she must plead that everything that happened to her was duress. She was blackmailed. She was threatened with death. So whatever she did, right, including bringing a body to the prison cell, helping him to escape, she was under duress. But imagine now if I had advised her to say that, and the next thing they are seeing in court, you know, having those looks and holding hands after you have advised them to do that, because this means that they shouldn't come together. They should even look at each other. If you are going to say, hey, the police have done you a favor by arresting you in Tanzania and bringing South Africa because you were there against your will. You see, so it's a lesson to you guys that do not advise your client how to plead, especially if it's lies. Do not advise. Just tell him that he must make the statement, correct statement, and tell him the implications, and yeah, that's it. But they must try and tell the truth, because if they're telling the lie under cross-examination, that lie might be found, and that means trouble for them, right? Okay, let's end it there.